Last July, Millicent Conway appeared before the Fulchester Magistrates' Court on a charge of arson. She pleaded not guilty. The case is now being heard before the Crown Court. The prosecution have alleged that the accused was seen at the scene of the fire, both just before and just after it was lit, and that in the interval, she deliberately lit it.
I call Norma Marilyn Bates.
Norma Marilyn Bates, please.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
What is your full name, please?
Norma Marilyn Bates.
Your occupation, Miss Bates?
Sales lady. Cheese department in Rutherford's.
Where were you on the evening of the 17th of July of this year?
I was out near the old house, what they call Tipskill Manor. I was on my cycle, but the chain came off. I stopped and saw the old lady.
What time was this?
5 to 7.
Do you recognise in court the person that you saw?
It was her, the prisoner. She was standing there.
Where exactly was she standing?
Well, she was off the road. She was in all that rough light near the house.
How near to the house?
About from you to me.
What was she doing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
She was standing looking at the house.
Was there anyone else in the vicinity?
Pardon?
Did you see anyone else near the house?
I didn't see nobody. There wasn't nobody else there. She was all alone.
And on the road?
There wasn't nobody.
The road was completely deserted.
There was just me on the road with my cycle and her by the house.
Did you stop and speak to the accused?
I wondered about it. Such an old lady all alone out there. But it had made me late, the chain coming off my cycle. She turned and looked at me, and I did wonder if I ought to stop. But she didn't seem to need no help. She just turned away again and looked at the house.
So you carried on pushing your bicycle?
Yes, sir.
Was the road still deserted?
There wasn't a soul to be seen.
Thank you, Miss Bates.
You said that the accused was standing in all the rough light near the house.
I imagine it was garden light once upon a time, but they'd let it go.
Can you describe how she was standing?
Pardon?
Or did she, for example, have a walking stick?
She had 2 sticks.
How was she holding these 2 sticks?
She had one in each hand.
She was standing up straight, holding 2 sticks.
No, she was leaning on them, bent forwards like.
She was standing still, bent forward, supporting herself on 2 sticks. Other than the sticks, was she carrying anything?
Well, she couldn't really, could she? She didn't have no hand free.
She had no sort of handbag or hold-all.
Nothing.
Was there any baggage or anything visible on the ground near her?
Nothing I could see.
You didn't leave the road?
I was getting late, see. I had to get on.
Now, Miss Bates, the garden, or what was the garden of the house, is heavily overgrown.
A proper jungle.
Trees, thick bushes, dense undergrowth.
Yes, sir.
So there could, in fact, have been any number of people near the house whom you would not have been able to see.
There wasn't nobody about. She was all alone.
Well, we know that you saw nobody, Miss Bates, but in what you describe as a jungle, there could have been any number of people hiding.
Oh, well, yes, I see what you mean. There could have been people hiding.
And since you did not leave the road, you could not have seen round the other side of the house.
No.
Which is or was a large rambling building.
Yes, sir, a great barrack of a place.
Thank you, Miss Bates.
Constable Williams, your bicycle passed Tipskill Manor at 25 minutes past 7.
Yes, sir.
What did you see there?
Smoke, sir. There was smoke going up the side of the house. I dismounted, sir, ran towards it, and there was a fire started in a wooden shed up against the house.
Was any person nearby?
Yes, sir, the accused.
Well, where was the accused in relation to the fire?
Right there on the spot, about 6 feet away.
What was she doing?
Standing looking at the fire, staring at it.
Could you describe her appearance?
Yes, she was highly excited. She was waving a stick.
At what?
At the fire.
Was there anything else about her appearance?
Yes, her clothes were singed. She had on a woolly coat. There were sparks in the wool smouldering.
And the fire at this moment?
I was really taking hold. There was a bit of a breeze, see? And all of a sudden, the flames came right out of a window above the shed where it started.
And what action did you take?
Well, I had to get away to a telephone, sir. I said, get back out of this, and I ran to my bike.
And then?
Well, it's about half a mile to the nearest house, Roundwood Farm. I used the telephone there for the fire brigade.
And having telephoned?
I went straight back to the house. It was well away, proper inferno. I looked round for the accused, saw her about 30 yards away from the house. I approached her, cautioned her, and said, what'd you go and do a thing like that for?
Did the accused make any reply?
No, sir, she stood looking at me like I wasn't there, and then looked back to the fire.
Now, were her appearance and manner the same as when you first saw her?
No, she seemed calmer. She wasn't waving a stick like before. She seemed quite calm and collected. And I said, I hope you're pleased with what you've done.
Yes, you were, in effect, accusing her of having started the fire.
Well, it seemed obvious to me at the time, sir. I mean, no one else about, no one nearer than the farm.
Did the accused make a reply?
Yes, she said, I am pleased and proud with what I have done. I said, well, that's it then. It's a criminal offence. You'll have to come with me.
And did she reply to that?
No, she stood looking at me in the fire. I then tried to help her towards the road.
Did she require your help to get to the road?
No, she refused my help, sir. She said, I'm perfectly capable of crossing this garden.
And was she?
Yeah, made it to the road quite brisk.
Without any assistance from you?
Didn't require my assistance, sir. At this juncture, the fire engines arrived.
What happened then, Constable?
Well, Mr. Hadfield came in his car, and when he could, he very kindly sent us down to the police station.
Yes, Mr. Hadfield, the municipal fire officer.
Yes, sir.
And when you arrived at the police station?
Made my report, and the accused was charged.
Did she make a reply when charged?
Yes, she said, I'm completely innocent. I know the law.
Nothing else?
Nothing else at all.
Right. Now, could we go back, Constable Williams, to the moment when you first saw the smoke? You were bicycling along the road. Was there anyone else on the road?
No, the road was entirely deserted, sir, except for myself.
So how much of the road could you see from the point at which you stopped?
Well, about a mile behind, maybe 300 yards ahead.
And the road was empty?
Yes, sir.
What about the area around the house?
There was no one there, except for the accused.
Thank you, Constable.
Constable Williams, you have testified that the accused pointed with her stick.
Yes, sir.
With one of her two sticks.
Yes, sir.
And the other stick?
She was holding the other stick.
Leaning on it?
Yeah,
Bent forward?
somewhat bent.
It was supporting her.
I think it was, yeah.
She appeared to need the support of one stick while she waved with the other.
Yes, sir.
You say that she appeared excited,
Yes.
and she pointed with her stick at the fire.
Yes, sir.
In other words, she was pointing out the fire to you.
Well, I hardly needed it pointed out to me. I mean, not with it blazing like it was.
Nevertheless, she indicated to you with her stick that there was a fire.
Yes, sir.
And when she did so, she was excited.
She appeared to be in a state of high excitement, sir.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it was just high excitement.
The fire was now burning vigorously, and the accused was 6 feet away from it.
Yes.
She pointed it out to you with her stick in a state of high excitement.
Yes.
Did it not occur to you that she was trying to tell you to put it out?
Well, that's not how it struck me, sir.
Well, she wasn't trying to hide the fire from you,
No.
nor trying to hide herself.
No, sir.
On the contrary, she was urgently pointing out the fire to you.
Yes, sir.
In the flames that were now roaring, there must have been burning fragments being blown about.
Not that I saw.
Well, there may have been some.
I don't recall seeing burning fragments being blown about, sir.
Can you swear that there were no fragments?
Well, I expect there may have been a few.
And the accused was quite close enough to the fire for burning fragments, if any, to have lodged in her clothes,
Yes, sir.
which would account for the singeing and smouldering that you saw.
Yes, could.
If the accused had herself tried to put the fire out, that would also account for the singeing of her clothes.
Yes, it would.
Did it not cross your mind that the accused was in the state of shocked excitement which you describe, and with singed clothes because she herself had tried to put the fire out?
That's not how it struck me, sir.
Does it not strike you now?
No.
My lord, my learned friend is asking the witness to speculate about events which he did not see.
Yes, Mr. Collier, please confine your questions to what the witness saw and did.
Very well, my lord. The witness has testified as to his assumption that the accused started the fire, which was also speculation about an event he did not see.
He has testified as to what he said and why he said it.
Very well, my lord. Now, Constable Williams, you said to the accused, "What did you go and do a thing like that for?" having jumped to the conclusion that the accused had started the fire.
That was the only conclusion to come to.
Because she appeared to be alone?
She was alone, sir.
How can you swear that she was alone?
Well, no one else was visible in the vicinity of the house.
You didn't go round the house?
No, sir.
Nor into it?
Not likely.
Did you thoroughly explore the dense shrubbery and undergrowth near the house?
No, sir.
The undergrowth is dense.
Yes, quite a tangle of bushes, sir.
Large enough and thick enough to have concealed a person or many persons?
I suppose so.
Well, without asking you to speculate, Constable, but only describe the shrubbery, was it of a kind that could have concealed, say, half a dozen small boys in hiding?
Well, yes, sir, there could have been small boys. I'm sure there wasn't.
How are you sure? Constable, you cannot be sure there wasn't an army of small boys in the bushes or around the other side of the house.
There could have been boys.
Thank you. Now, the accused, when you saw her, was leaning on one stick and waving with the other.
Yes, sir.
Since she held a stick in each hand, she was carrying nothing else.
No.
No handbag. She was carrying nothing.
No, sir.
Nor was there anything nearby on the ground.
No, sir, not that I saw.
No package, carrier bag, nothing.
No, sir.
I see. So when the accused crossed the rough ground to the road, she did so without your assistance.
Yes, sir.
But you offered your assistance.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Well, she's a very elderly woman. An old lady. I thought you'd be glad of a hand.
Because of her age and frailty and difficulty in walking?
Yes, sir.
When she was standing still, she was able to gesture with one stick while leaning on the other. But as soon as she made any attempt to walk,
She used both her sticks.
with each step that she took, when she crossed the rough ground to the road, she required the support of both sticks.
Yes, sir.
You said to the accused, "I hope you're pleased with what you've done,"
Yes, I've informed the opinion that she was responsible for the fire.
having jumped to that conclusion when you first saw the accused close to the fire.
Yes, sir.
And you jumped to that conclusion on the basis of your observation. First, that the accused was close to the fire. Second, that no one else was visible close to the fire. Third, that her clothing was singed by the fire. And fourth, that she appeared to be excited about the fire.
Yes.
Because of these things, and no others, you concluded that she had started the fire. But you made no attempt to take her into custody for the serious crime which you thought she had just committed.
I did take her into custody.
At the time when you first saw the accused and before you went away to telephone, all you did was to warn her to get away to a place of safety.
Yes, sir.
You took no action at all to secure the person of this, to you, obvious criminal.
Well, the other seemed more urgent. Getting a fire engine seemed the urgent thing.
If you'd found a small boy with a box of matches in his hand, surely you would have collared him.
Yes, before he ran away.
If he ran away, he would have escaped the consequences of his crime.
Yes, sir.
But you made no immediate attempt to arrest the accused because it did not cross your mind that she would try and run away and hide.
Well, I didn't think she could run very far.
You mean that she can only walk slowly and with difficulty and with the aid of two sticks?
Yes, sir.
And in any case, she showed no signs of even wishing to escape.
No?
You thought you'd be quite safe in leaving her, that when you got back from telephoning, she would still be there.
I suppose I did.
And in the event, when you did get back, she had made no attempt to escape, but was standing in full view, watching the fire.
Yes.
Is that what you'd expect of someone who's just committed a crime?
Well, I don't think the accused is like an ordinary criminal, sir.
I agree with you, Constable. And I don't think, do you, that in making no attempt to hide either the fire or herself, she was acting like any kind of criminal, ordinary or not, like a person who has committed any kind of crime.
It's not like a normal delinquent, no.
Did you caution her? She appears to have no recollection of it.
I did, sir.
Well, you said, "Look what you've done." And when she made no reply, you said, "I hope you're pleased with what you've done." To which she replied, "Yes, I am pleased and proud with what I've done." How did you interpret that reply? What did you think she meant?
Well, I took it as an admission, sir.
Why?
Well, it's obvious.
Was it? Suppose the accused had herself tried and failed to put the fire out. Might she not at her age be proud of that? Is that not an equally possible solution?
My lord, my learned friend is now asking the witness to speculate about the mental workings of another person.
Yes, Mr. Colley, the accused can tell us what she meant when she herself gives evidence. It is not a subject about which this witness can testify.
As your lordship pleases. I'm suggesting that the witness jumped to unwarrantable conclusions as to the meaning of the words the accused employed and as to the reasons for her visible excitement.
Yes, I take your point, Mr. Collier, but you must confine your question to matters about which this witness can testify.
Yes, my lord. I have no further questions.
Mr. Hadfield, as part of your duties, you made an inspection of Tipskill Manor on the morning after the fire.
I did, sir.
What was the result of your investigations?
I concluded deliberate incendiarism. The premises were not on the main electricity supply. The generator that had supplied electricity to the house was inoperative and had apparently not been in use for many years. There were no traces of damp straw or any other decomposing material that could have caused spontaneous combustion. The sun had been, at the relevant time the previous evening, neither high enough nor bright enough to have started a fire by an accidental burning glass. The wooden shed in which the combustion had started had, in any case, no glass in the windows.
Apart from finding no reason to suspect spontaneous combustion, did you find any reason to suggest deliberate fire-raising?
Yes, sir. An empty half-gallon paraffin can.
May the witness be shown Exhibit 1, please? Is that the can?
Yes, sir. It was lying about 7 feet from the corner of the lean-to shed, concealed in a clump of briars. Paint of the label was somewhat scorched, but substantially legible.
And you think it probable, Mr. Hadfield, that the fire was started with paraffin which was poured over the lean-to shed from that can, and that the can itself was then concealed in the brambles which were themselves partly burnt?
Oh, I should think it more than probable. Everything I saw was consistent with the fire having been started as you describe.
I'm obliged, Mr. Hadfield.
Now, Mr. Hadfield, the can appears to have no date.
No, sir.
It's made of a non-corrosive material which neither rusts nor weathers.
That is so, yes.
So the can could have been in the brambles for a week, or a month, or even a year.
Not a year, sir. The brambles would have grown over it completely.
Well, just so. Let's say the can could have been in the brambles for a week.
I suppose it is possible, sir, strictly speaking, that someone, for obscure motives, might have hid the can in the brambles quite empty a week before.
So that in linking the can to the fire, you are reaching a conclusion which, while on the face of it obvious, is in fact speculative.
At least it's a more convincing speculation that someone went all that way to an empty house to hide an empty can in some brambles.
Well, returning from speculation, Mr. Hadfield, you say that the damage was consistent with the fire having been started with paraffin.
And inconsistent with anything else. That fire didn't start on its own.
You mean that you could find no reason for it having started on its own?
None.
That's not the same thing, Mr. Hadfield.
I give it as my opinion, sir, formed not lightly, that no accident without human agency could have started a fire in a premises without electricity, without material that could have caused spontaneous combustion, and without bright sunlight. I've never seen a clearer case of arson.
You're careful to use the word opinion.
Yes, sir, and I'm careful with that opinion.
Well then, in your opinion, could a small amount of petrol splashed on the shed have been used to start the fire?
Certainly, sir. But what I found was a paraffin can.
But petrol or any other inflammable spirit could have been used.
Yes, sir.
And a match struck by anybody who happened to be there with a matchbox.
With respect, sir, I'm not asked to form an opinion about who struck the match, but I am qualified to give an opinion that a match was struck.
Thank you, Mr. Hadfield.
I call Albert Morton.
Albert Morton, please.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Morton, you are the owner of Morton's Home Stores of Glenview Road, Fulchester.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen the accused before?
Yes, sir. She's a regular customer. Comes in twice a week or thereabouts.
And has been doing so for how long?
Oh, ever so long. As far back as I can remember. Oh, since I was demobbed and took over the shop from my dad.
And what did the accused buy from you?
Grocery, it's the usual kind of order, sir.
Which you delivered?
The last few years I've been delivering, sir, yes. On account of Miss Conway getting on, you know. Not so young as she was.
Do you ever buy paraffin from you?
Not once in all them years, sir. Then suddenly she wants paraffin. Half a gallon can. Paraffin, I says, Miss Conway. Paraffin, she says, quite bluntly, not inviting questions.
Can you remember the date?
Second week in July, sir.
Were you surprised by this order?
Well, it did seem a bit odd, sir. I mean, here we are in midsummer and quite a hot spell.
What brand of paraffin did you deliver to Miss Conway?
Warm Glow, sir. That's the one I carry.
Was it in a container like this?
Yes, sir. That could be the very one.
Now, how much paraffin has the accused bought from you since?
None, sir.
None?
No, sir.
Just the single, isolated can in July?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Morton.
Thank you.
Mr. Morton, do you know of other grocers who sell paraffin?
Oh, quite a number, ain't it, sir?
Ironmongers and garages also?
Well, they've all got part of the trade, sir.
In fact, there are hundreds of such businesses in Fulchester,
Quite, yeah, must be hundreds, sir.
many of which carry this same brand.
I should imagine so, yes.
So you could not possibly identify this can as one which you sold,
No, sir. But it is like what I sell.
and like what many others sell. The
Yes.
design on the can hasn't changed recently,
Not that I can recall, sir. I think they've had this print for a very long time.
so you could not put a date on this can.
Oh, impossible, sir.
You or any other retailer might have sold it to anybody at any time over many years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Morton.
Thanks.
I want to be quite sure that we understand the witness on one point, my lord.
Very well.
Mr. Morton, Miss Conway has been buying all her groceries from you for over 30 years.
Oh, yes, sir. Takes me back to the ration book day, sir.
And in all that time, she has never bought paraffin.
Never.
Thank you, Mr. Morton.
Thanks.
Does your lordship have any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Morton.
That concludes the case of the prosecution, my lord.
It appears to be slightly incomplete, Mr. O'Connor.
My lord?
I refer to evidence as to ownership of the property which the accused is alleged to have destroyed.
Yes, well, there has been a difficulty, my lord. The owner of the property is believed to be in Australia. It has not been possible to make contact with his solicitors or with himself, and the whereabouts of the deed is unknown. A great number of property deeds were destroyed in the war when the offices of solicitors and insurance companies were damaged due to bombing. It seems likely that this deed was amongst those. However, the defendant's solicitor have been kind enough to indicate to me that no claim is made that the property belongs to their client.
Is that so, Mr. Collier?
Indeed, my lord. My client does not assert any title to the property.
Very well.
My lord, I call Millicent Conway.
The case of the Queen against Conway will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court. Millicent Conway has pleaded not guilty to a charge of arson, having been accused of deliberately destroying by fire a large empty house near Fulchester. An expert witness has said that the fire must have been started deliberately. The accused bought a can of paraffin just before the date of the fire, although she'd never bought paraffin before. The defence is about to open its case with the evidence of the accused.
May the accused be permitted to sit, my lord?
But yes, of course.
Where were you on the evening of 17th July last?
I took a bus toward Mavis Green, and there is a request stop near Tipskill Manor, And there I descended from the bus and walked the short distance to the house.
Why did you make this trip?
Sentiment. It was a sentimental journey, revisiting my very distant youth. You see, before I became a teacher, I was a nursery governess, and at Tipskill Manor I was employed over a very happy period to look after and to teach the 4 children of Major and Mrs. Scott Godden.
You had never made the journey before to revisit Tipskill Manor.
No, I had often wanted to, but many things deterred me. I moved away to take other situations and did not return here till the end of the recent war. Then there were other people living in the manor, and I did not want to see other people, my house in other people's hands. So I waited. Then I understood it was caretakers only. And then I heard, I think it was in the post office, that even they had been removed, and now the house was quite abandoned. But it was in my mind, constantly in my mind, to revisit. So I waited until it was very fine and very warm, and until I felt nimble enough to negotiate the steps of the motor bus, and then out I came. But a lot of me regretted seeing the place in such a miserable and abandoned state. Weeds everywhere, broken windows, and, dark and silent. But then memory came flooding back. Oh, I was very happy there before the war.
The war?
Yes, the Kaiser War. Of course, the Major rejoined his regiment, and I took another position.
On the evening of your visit, you entered the garden.
Yes, I picked my way through rank thickets of goodness knows what vegetation. I crossed what used to be our croquet lawn, and where I was often invited to join in the games.
Did you see anyone else?
Yes, I saw a young girl pushing her bicycle. She seemed rather as if she wanted to stop, but I didn't want my reveries interrupted, so I just glanced at her and looked away. Oh, I do hope she didn't think I was rude.
Anyone else? Did you see anyone else near the house?
Oh, well, now I must try to be entirely accurate.
Yes, please do.
Well, I do not think I clearly and distinctly saw any other person.
You were in the garden. What then?
I saw fire.
What exactly did you see?
Smoke. Little wisps of smoke coming between the cracks of the walls of a very ugly little shed built against the wall of the house, and inside the shed, as it appeared, a giant smoking a cigar. Oh, well, that was only a ridiculous impression that I had. At first I never thought of fire. It never dawned upon me that fire could just start like that. But then I saw the little baby flames running up the side of the wall.
What did you do?
Well, I made all speed to get to the spot.
With what intention?
To put the fire out, of course, to extinguish the flames.
Which you tried to do.
To no effect. Now, an able-bodied man could have saved the situation, but it was beyond me. I only succeeded in ruining my woolly.
Were you not frightened?
No. Angry. And then that ridiculous policeman came running up.
A ridiculous policeman came running up?
Yes, dressed in a police uniform. I thought he was in fancy dress.
Why was that?
Well, he looked so ridiculously young and completely helpless, but there. I suppose it is difficult nowadays to recruit men of the old stamp.
What did the police officer do?
Nothing.
He did nothing?
No, nothing. He simply stood there gawping like a half-wit and didn't seem to know what his duty was, so I ventured to point it out to him.
By gesture?
Well, I was beyond speech. I pointed out with my stick where the centre of the fire was, and I thought, well, he's only got to kick the shed down and stop the flames from getting to the house. But he only turned and ran away.
And you?
Well, I thought it safer to do the same thing. Of course, I couldn't run away as fast as he did, but I made shift to withdraw.
You stood watching the fire. What next?
Well, then the policeman returned. Oh, well, I suppose I must accept that he was a genuine policeman, although he looked very underage, and if I may say this without cruelty, definitely no intelligence at all.
I see. So when he returned, he spoke to you?
Yes, he came clumping up to me and said, "Why did you try to put the fire out?"
He asked you?
Well, I took that to be the purport of the question he was asking me.
You heard the constable's evidence?
Oh, yes, quite well, thank you. Oh, yes, his enunciation was very good.
He has testified that he cautioned you and then said, "What did you go and do a thing like that for?"
Yes, well, I think he meant, why had I endangered myself trying to put the fire out when such an effort was doomed to failure?
And you made no reply?
Well, I didn't think it called for a reply.
Did he make a further remark?
Oh, I can't remember precisely what he said.
Well, he has testified that he said, "I hope you are pleased with what you've done."
Oh, yes. Now, here I thought was a sign of grace.
Of grace?
Yes, of grace, my lord. You see, he was commiserating with me on my failure, but he was paying tribute to the attempt.
Consequently, you replied?
Yes, I said, of course. I am pleased and proud with what I have done. Oh, dear, that sounds a little vainglorious.
And the officer then said?
Well, something completely idiotic. I was dumbfounded.
Well, he has testified that he said, "That's it then. It's a criminal offence and you'll have to come along with me."
Yes. Well, you can see why I was astonished. I couldn't make head or tail of it. It seemed that he wanted to have the house burned down. The law had insisted that the house should be burned down, and I was to be arraigned as a felon for trying to save the house. Well, it was some time before it dawned upon me what they all meant.
How much later?
Well, in the police station. And then, to my unutterable amazement, they said that I was to be arrested for starting the fire.
Which you did not do.
My old home, where I'd been the happiest in all my life, with the kindest of employers, the sweetest of children, burn it down? Me? That of all houses?
So you denied the charge?
Well, of course I did. Of all the ridiculous misunderstandings, that was the most absurd.
Constable Williams testifies that in reply to the charge, you protested your innocence and added, "I know the law."
Well, not as well as you or the other gentleman, or even his lordship himself, but I do know that British justice is revered all through the world, and that in the end this dreadful business would be cleared up.
Can we return to your journey on the bus? The platform of the bus is rather high for you.
Well, my knees do not bend as they did.
But with your sticks, you managed.
Yes.
A stick in each hand?
Alas, as always.
So it would have been difficult for you to carry anything?
Oh, very awkward.
Were you, in fact, carrying anything?
Nothing.
Not even a handbag?
Nothing.
What about your money for the bus?
Oh, well, I always carry a change purse in the pocket of my woolly. I have it in the pocket of this coat. It's easier.
Thank you, Miss Conway.
You returned to Fulchester after a very long absence at the end of the war.
Yes.
You see, I find it strange that for 30 years you made no attempt to revisit the scenes of your happiness. The very evening when you did come, the house was burnt down.
Well?
Oh, I did not know that was a question, my lord. I heard the gentleman say he found something or other very strange, but I didn't know I'd been invited to comment.
I will rephrase it. Is it not strange that you should have waited so long to revisit Tipskill Manor?
Only to a certain type of mind, I think, to the literal and unromantic type of mind. But I'm a very sentimental old woman, and I didn't want to see the house full of people that I did not know. I preferred my memories as I knew it.
Well, is it not also strange that on the very evening that you went there, the house should happen to burn down?
Very strange.
An extraordinary coincidence.
Extraordinary. extraordinary.
Well, really too extraordinary to believe, don't you agree?
Not to someone of my age. Well, horseless carriages, flying machines, men walking about in the moon. They're all too extraordinary to believe.
During all your 30 years here, you've bought all your groceries from Mr. Morton?
Yes, his shop was clean and very near my lodgings.
Yes, you've not in all those years ever bought paraffin.
Well, I'm not so wealthy that I buy anything of which I have no need.
You have no need of paraffin.
I have had no need of paraffin.
But last July you suddenly needed it.
Yes.
For burning down a house?
No.
For what purpose, then?
For my paraffin heater in my room.
You possess a paraffin heater?
No.
Well, yet you buy paraffin for one.
Well,
You bought half a gallon of paraffin to burn in a heater which you did not have.
yes, my lord. You see, the heater was to come next.
You were planning to buy a heater.
Well, yes, otherwise I wouldn't have spent the money on the paraffin.
Well, would it not have been more logical to have bought the heater and then the paraffin?
Why?
Well, the paraffin is no use without the heater, is it?
The heater is no use without the paraffin. I needed both. I think it's quite as logical to buy the one first as the other first. And I happened to buy the paraffin first.
Miss Conway, is the paraffin still in your room?
No, it has disappeared.
Well, can you account for its disappearance?
I can't swear to anything.
Well, half-gallon cans of paraffin do not sprout wings and fly.
No, indeed, that's unheard of.
Yes, well, have you no idea at all what has become of your can of paraffin, then?
I would rather not say.
You must say.
Truly, I would rather not.
Was it not used to start a fire at Tipskill Manor? Is that not where your can of paraffin has gone?
You must answer counsel's question.
Well, I think Mrs. Liddell may have taken it.
Mrs. Liddell, your landlady.
Oh, well, she only borrowed it.
Does she, to your knowledge, use paraffin?
Well, she must have had some use for it.
Well, I suggest that your landlady has no use for paraffin, that she didn't touch the paraffin in your room. And there's an accusation of theft.
Borrowing.
When did you notice that your paraffin was missing?
Oh, I can't remember the date.
A long time ago.
It was some little while ago.
As long ago as July.
Yeah, it could be July.
It's about the 17th of July.
Somewhere about then.
Before the fire at Tipskill Manor.
Before or after?
Well, I suggest to you that your paraffin was removed from your room on the night of the fire.
Oh, yes. Yes. Now, that is quite likely.
You agree with me?
Yeah, yes, of course. I was out for a very long time. So if Mrs. Liddell had wanted to borrow something from my room, well, that was a very good evening for her to do it.
I see. Now, you have heard a very experienced fire officer testify that the fire could not have started on its own.
Well, that fireman knows more about fires in general than I do, but I know more about that one because I was there.
You have no idea at all how a empty can of paraffin, identical to one that you had just purchased, though you had no paraffin heater, empty can of paraffin, identical to one that had just disappeared from your room, how it happened to be found in the immediate vicinity of the house hidden in the brambles.
Oh, I'm afraid I've lost the thread of that question. It was very long.
I suggest to you that you, and not Mrs. Liddell, removed that paraffin from your room, that you took it to Tipskill Manor, that you poured it on the lean-to shed, and that you set light to the fire.
No. I've explained this to you over and over again. Your account of the matter is all upside down, and the police have got it all wrong. You've both of you got hold of the wrong end of the stick.
Nevertheless, you could not forbear to watch the house burning.
Well, of course not. When I was tiny, the one day in the year that I adored was Guy Fawkes. Oh, the fireworks, the squibs, and the bonfires most of all. I used to be quite ill with excitement.
And you feel that excitement to this day in watching a fire.
I no longer feel ill.
But fires, big fires, are exciting.
I'm so glad you agree with me.
And the clang of the fire engines.
Oh, quite an anticlimax.
Oh, you were sorry when the fire engines turned up. You didn't want the fire engine.
No, they spoiled the fun.
Of course they did. They spoiled all the fun of the house burning down.
And such an ugly house.
An ugly house, was it?
Miserably ugly, Victorian baronial at its worst.
You disliked the house?
Oh, I detested it. It's the people in the house that matter. Do you not agree?
The house was ugly and uncomfortable.
Yes, it was indeed.
In fact, you hated it.
Well, I've every reason to hate this building, but I'm not attempting to burn it down.
When you revisited Tipskill Manor, it was no longer sheltering the people whom you loved.
They were long gone.
There was nobody there to be injured.
Must be thankful for that mercy.
You knew that there had been caretakers there, but you also knew that they had left.
Yes, I think it was in the post office that they told me.
And this was shortly before your visit.
Yes, shortly before.
That knowledge was, in fact, as you have said, the immediate reason for your visit.
Well, I don't visit every house where there is no caretaker.
I put the question badly.
Yes.
You had refrained from visiting the house whilst the caretakers were there, but you had resolved to visit it as soon as you knew that they had left.
Soon afterwards.
Well, you heard that the house was almost falling down. You knew that it was empty, it wasn't guarded, it was no longer fulfilling a useful function. Nobody would be hurt if it was burnt down. Nobody would even grieve very much. Isn't that right?
You might be describing me. I'm constantly nearly falling down, and I'm not guarded, and I'm not serving any useful purpose, but I'm not thinking of burning myself down.
You watched the house burn with what you have compared to a child's excitement on Guy Fawkes night. And then you told Constable Williams you were pleased with what you had done.
Well, of course. I had tried to put the fire out.
The house was empty, ugly, decrepit and useless, and yet you tried to put the fire out.
I felt it was my duty. All my life, my lord, I have tried to do my duty.
I've no further questions, my lord.
To re-examine, Mr. Collier?
I do have a few questions, my lord. We have heard a great deal about a half-gallon can of paraffin. Now, Mr. Morton has said that he delivered the can to your lodgings.
Yes, he did very kindly do so.
Had he not done so...
But he did do so, Mr. Collier.
My lord, I'm suggesting that had the accused attempted unaided to carry a half-gallon can
I know what you are suggesting, Mr. Collier, but it does seem to be a novel line of questioning.
With respect, my lord, it is already established that the accused walks with 2 sticks and in consequence carries no handbag but a small purse. Now, the accused has already given evidence that she carried such a purse in the pocket of her cardigan on the evening of 17th July. My learned friend has put it to the accused that she carried a half-gallon can of paraffin from her lodging to Tipskill Manor, presumably also in the pocket of her woolly cardigan.
For objects like that, I carry a string bag. Really, you're all talking as though I were 200 years old and tied to a wheelchair. That stupid policeman wanted to carry me across a strip of garden, but I soon showed him a clean pair of heels. If I want to carry a parcel, I can carry it.
Can you carry a half-gallon can of paraffin?
Of course, perfectly well. You talk as though I were dead. I can show you.
Well, I think that would be the best way of arriving at the truth of this issue.
This is my string bag. I always keep it with me in case there's something to be carried.
Very well, if you would come down from the witness box into the well of the court here. What is she going to carry for us?
Might I suggest a book, my lord?
Right.
Heavier than the paraffin.
Then you did carry the paraffin.
Well, of course, my lord. Across my little room. After Mr. Morton had delivered it, and before it disappeared.
I see.
Miss Conway, accepting that you could have carried a half-gallon can of paraffin to Tipskill Manor, I ask you again, did you do so?
No.
Thank you. Have you any questions for this witness, my lord?
Yes, there is one point about which I am in some confusion. You say that you went back to Tipskill Manor to revisit the scenes of the happiest time of your youth.
Yes.
And yet you have also testified that you disliked the house almost to the point of hatred.
It is quite possible to be happy in an ugly house. And the manor was...
The manor was what?
the shell of my memories, the casket in which they were to be found. That is why, my lord, I could never have damaged the house, and that is why I tried to put the fire out the moment I saw it.
The case of the Queen against Conway will be concluded tomorrow in the Crown Court. Millicent Conway has pleaded not guilty to arson, having been charged with deliberately setting fire to a large empty house near Fulchester. She was seen on the spot just before the fire started, and just after it was lit. She was apparently alone. An empty can of paraffin was found near the fire. The accused bought such a can from her local grocer just before the fire, although she had never bought paraffin before and had no paraffin heater. The defence is now calling evidence to establish an innocent reason for the purchase of the paraffin.
Mrs. Liddell, you have been Miss Conway's landlady for a number of years.
I don't take boarders. Miss Conway is more what they call a paying guest.
The accused has been your paying guest for how long?
12 years, ever since Mr. Liddell passed on. I was glad of the extra. Not that it's enough, really.
In this time, have you got to know Miss Conway well?
Oh, not intimate, really. No, I tried to be friendly, but she keeps herself to herself.
Do you take your meals together?
Oh, no, sir. Right from the start, I said no meals.
So she has cooking facilities in her bed-sitting room?
She's got a gas ring in a cupboard.
Is your house centrally heated?
There's gas fires in some rooms.
In Miss Conway's room?
She's got an electric fire.
Did she ever make any remark to you about the electric fire or the meter?
Oh, she was always going on about it.
What did she say?
Complained it was too dear, complained it didn't heat the room properly.
Did she do anything about it?
She said she was going to get a paraffin heater.
Did she get one?
Oh, she looked in the shops, looked at different sorts. Then she went out and bought the paraffin.
Although she had no heater yet?
She was going to get the heater, she said.
Did it surprise you that she had bought some paraffin before she had a heater?
No, it was typical, getting the paraffin before the heater, cart before the horse, you know. She's always reading books from the library.
Anything else you can think of?
Well, she never sees anybody, never wants to see anybody. Like a hermit, she is.
In fact, Miss Conway is eccentric.
My lord, I object. My learned friend is putting a word into the witness's mouth.
Please rephrase that question, Mr. Collier.
Yes, my lord. Mrs. Liddell, you have said that it was quite typical of the accused to buy a half-gallon can of paraffin before she had a heater to put it in.
Oh, yes, quite typical.
And she spoke to you of her intention to buy a heater on many occasions.
On and on about it she was.
Thank you, Mrs. Liddell.
Mrs. Liddell, did Mr. Morton deliver the paraffin ordered by the accused?
Yes, I saw it in the box with the rest in the passage. She never goes in. Nobody ever goes in.
Nobody ever goes into Miss Conway's room?
No, she won't have anybody in there.
You never look in for a chat?
Oh, I used to when she first came to live in the house, but I soon found out I wasn't welcome.
Surely someone goes in to clean the room.
Oh, no, sir, right from the start I said no cleaning. I've got enough without cleaning.
Nobody at all, except the accused herself, ever goes into her room?
Nobody could, even if they wanted.
Why could they not?
Because she keeps it locked.
Or when she's in or when she's out?
Both, sir. Always locked.
Now, when the box of groceries arrived from Mr. Morton, which included a can of paraffin, Miss Conway must have opened the door and carried the box into her room.
No, pulled it in, sir. She pulls the box in with the handle of her stick.
Then she shuts the door again and locks it.
That's right. Like she was frightened of burglars.
Did you ever see that paraffin again?
I did not.
Do you ever go into her room in the days or weeks after the paraffin was delivered?
Well, I couldn't, even if I wanted to.
You see, Mrs. Liddell, it has been suggested that you borrowed the paraffin.
That's a wicked lie.
Have you any paraffin heaters in your house?
None. I don't like them. They blow over.
You have not and never have had any appliance of any kind using paraffin?
None.
So you have no use whatsoever for a half-gallon can of paraffin?
No, and even if I had, I wouldn't take hers. And it's a wicked black lie, her saying that I did.
And as far as you know, the can of paraffin is still in Miss Conway's room?
Well, as far as I know, it must be.
Yet we have heard evidence that it is not there.
Then she took it out. She must have.
Because nobody else could have?
That's right.
Now, Mrs. Liddell, did the accused ever mention Tipskill Manor to you?
Dozens of times.
Ever since she first came into your house?
Oh, no, not first off. Just this year.
The early part of this year?
It was in the summer, beginning of the summer.
I see. What did the accused say about Tipskill Manor?
Well, she said, now that it was empty, she could do like the Major had told her to.
Did she say what that was?
Yes, sir. Burn the house down.
Thank you, Mrs. Liddell. I've no further questions, my lord.
I would like to make an application, my lord.
Yes, Mr. Collier?
To be permitted to treat this witness as hostile.
No, Mr. Collier. All she has done is to give evidence which, in part, is unfavourable to you. That does not make her in law hostile. You may, however, re-examine her if you wish.
Very well, my lord. Mrs. Liddell, do you know what the accused said when she gave her evidence?
My friend told me what she said. She said I stole the paraffin.
Your friend was in the court?
She heard those wicked black lies and she told me about it.
You were angry when you heard what your friend had said?
Nobody has ever said such a thing before. I never took a brass farthing in my life.
These dozens of conversations that you had with the accused about Tipskill Manor in the early summer of this year, however did you come to have them?
Well, we were living in the same house.
But she kept herself to herself. She was like a hermit. She seldom came out of her room, and you never went into it.
So I knew when I wasn't welcome.
Then when and where did you ever come to have these conversations?
In the passage, mostly.
She spent all that time in the passage?
The toilet is at the end of the passage.
You exchanged a word or two when she passed you in the passage?
Yes, we passed the time of day.
Do you live in the passage?
Has to be cleaned.
And whenever Miss Conway went along the passage, you were there cleaning?
I sometimes happened to be there.
These meetings in the passage, Mrs. Liddell, did they happen once a day, once a week, or did they ever happen at all?
I was there sometimes when she came along the passage.
And whenever that happened, she began to talk to you about Tipskill Manor?
She did talk about it.
She suddenly began pouring out these extraordinary threats to burn a house down?
Yes, but that's what it came to.
Well, this was a very remarkable change in her behaviour, was it not?
She got talkative all of a sudden.
You must have been very surprised.
I thought she was going round the bend.
I see. You thought she had quite suddenly become unhinged, lost her reason, perhaps because of her great age.
Well, it seemed like it, didn't it? I mean, all that talk about setting fire to a house.
So you didn't take it seriously?
Well, you wouldn't, would you?
And you made no effort to warn anybody about it?
It wasn't none of my business.
An old lady who seemed to have gone mad and kept threatening to burn a house down, and you never thought to tell anybody about it?
It wasn't none of my business.
When you spoke earlier to Miss Conway's solicitors, you made no mention about these conversations, although you knew what Miss Conway was charged with. Well, why was that, Mrs. Liddell?
Mr. Collier, I have let you get away with a great deal so far, but you really cannot continue to ask leading questions.
I'm sorry, my lord. I was trying to avoid asking them. I'll rephrase the last question. Mrs. Liddell, when you saw Miss Conway's solicitors in these conversations...
No. I didn't want to get anyone into trouble.
Oh, do you now? Is that it?
But the truth will out.
Will it? You said nothing to us about these amazing conversations, but now that you're angry, you suddenly remember them.
Yes, I do remember them.
Miss Conway will say that there were no such conversations, Mrs. Liddell.
There was. As true as I stand here on my Bible oath, there was.
No further questions, my lord. Do you wish to question this witness?
Mrs. Liddell, do you know what perjury is?
Yes, my lord, and I don't intend to commit it.
You swear the accused repeatedly told you of her intention to burn down Tipskill Manor now that it was empty.
Yes, my lord.
Very well. You may leave the witness box, Mrs. Liddell. Mr. Collier, you might like to recall the accused.
Yes, my lord. She had better deal with Mrs. Liddell's revelations. You heard Mrs. Liddell's evidence.
I am innocent of the crime of arson.
Did you at any time say anything to Mrs. Liddell about Tipskill Manor?
Probably did.
Can you remember what it was that you said?
Well, whatever it was, I remain clear that I am not guilty.
Answer counsel's question. What did you say to Mrs. Liddell?
I said that the house must be burned down.
But you did not burn it down.
I repeat, I am innocent.
You made the threat, but you did not carry it out.
I am not guilty. I don't know how I can make myself more clear.
Why did you say that the house must be burned down?
Dry rot. It was unsafe. A child might have explored, gone upstairs and fallen through the floor. Such a thing does not bear thinking of.
So you knew that there was dry rot in the house?
Yes, and when dry rot takes over, fire is the only solution.
And that was what you meant when you spoke to Mrs. Liddell?
Well, what else?
That was all you meant?
I can't think of anything else.
But you did not, yourself, attempt to carry out this judgment on this house?
I am quite innocent of this charge.
You did not merely say that Tipskill Manor ought to be burned down, did you?
Did I not?
No, you said that Major Scott Godden told you to burn it down.
It is like him to consider the safety of one rebellious child.
So he left the house in 1914, I think.
To rejoin his regiment, naturally.
60 years ago. Was the house unsafe then?
I don't understand.
Was it already infested with dry rot?
Well, I think it had begun.
But the floor upstairs was safe.
As far as I know.
At any rate, you all went upstairs, didn't you?
Well, it would be very inconvenient otherwise.
Oh, Major Scott Godden did not forbid his wife and children going upstairs.
Oh, why should he do that? He was the most considerate of men.
Well, clearly then he did not consider the floors unsafe owing to dry rot.
Well, not immediately, no.
But you told us it was then, in 1914, that he told you to burn the house down.
But he was a man of great prevision. I remember him coming in and telling us all, long before the Archduke was murdered, that there would be war with Germany.
And he foresaw also that the house would have dry rot some 60 years later.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
And for that reason instruct you to burn it down?
He agreed it was a very ugly house.
Oh, he told you to burn it down because it was very ugly?
Yes. Ugliness upset them both. Mrs. Scott Godden told me once that she was positively ill with distaste when she first saw the Albert Memorial.
Yes, I want to know if Major Scott Godden ordered you to burn the house down because it was ugly.
And Mrs. Scott Godden once dismissed a housemaid because she had a wen, a big wen and a very distasteful wen in her neck.
Will you please answer counsel's question?
Oh, I'll do my very hardest to, my lord.
You have told us, I think, that Major Scott Godden gave you instructions to burn the house down. Now, what I want to know is what reason he gave you for burning the house down.
Millicent, he said. Millicent is my name.
Yes, we know your name, Miss Conway.
Millicent, he said, if you ever get the chance, burn this awful place down.
Awful? He thought his own house was awful?
Yes, well, it was very dark and impossible to keep clean.
If you ever get the chance, burn this awful place down. Yes. And you took these instructions literally?
They were the last words I ever heard him speak.
And of course, while another family was there.
Oh, could be no fire.
Not even the caretakers were there.
Could be no fire.
But when at long last the house was finally and permanently empty, you could carry out Major Scott Godden's instructions.
Yes, I suppose I could. But I am not guilty of that crime.
I've no further questions, my lord.
Mr. Collier?
Miss Conway, you have said firmly and most repeatedly that you are not guilty of this charge.
Not guilty of the charge.
With all the orders you received long ago from Major Scott Godden, and with the coincidence of the fire starting on the very evening of your visit, you did not start that fire.
I am not guilty of arson.
That is not an answer to counsel's question.
I find it a perfectly satisfactory answer, my lord.
You may well do so, Mr. Collier. I do not. You were asked not if you were guilty or not guilty, but if you started the fire.
And I repeat, my lord, for the 100th time, I am not guilty of arson.
And I can only repeat the question which I require you to answer. Did you start the fire?
Yes, my lord. But I am not guilty of arson. I told you that I knew the law, and you'll find out that I do. If a man burns down his own house, that is not arson.
Tipskill Manor is your house.
If a person burns down a house with the knowledge and consent of the owner, that is not arson. Major Scott Godden had told me to burn the house down.
Major Scott Godden, is he still alive?
Oh, really, my lord, he would be over 100 now, older than me. But he had 4 children. He has heirs. They were dutiful children, obedient children, and they would expect his wishes to be observed.
The owner is in Australia.
That doesn't surprise me at all. They were the children of a soldier and brought up to be adventuresome. Oh, between them all, they've travelled all over the world.
My lord, the defendant's admission of starting the fire under the order of Major Scott Godden represents a completely different offence to this charge.
I quite agree, Mr. O'Connor.
By chance, I'm in a position to bring forward evidence on the ownership of the house, which is entirely new.
On the single issue of the ownership of Tipskill Manor?
Yes, my lord. There is a person in this building who has knowledge of the facts.
Very well.
Percival Routledge, solicitor's clerk, now retired.
Yes, sir. From 1911 to 1932, I was employed by Woodman and Plum of this city.
You are aware of the issue presently facing this court?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us anything that sheds light on the matter, Mr. Routledge?
Yes, sir, I can. During the whole of the period named, Dr. Clarence Tom was the owner of Tipskill Manor, placing the management of the property in our hands owing to his residence abroad. We were responsible for letting the property. It was let furnished to a succession of short tenancies, usually to military families.
Can you remember, or have you a personal record of any of these military families?
Well, I had to look it up to jog my memory, sir. Major Scott Godden of the Royal Artillery, returning from India with his family, took Tipskill Manor from the 1st of March to the 31st of August, 1914, a normal furnished tenancy of 6 months.
Was there ever any chance of Major Scott Godden purchasing the manor?
Oh, no, sir, no, none at all. The owner would not have sold, and Major Scott Godden would certainly not have wished to purchase.
How do you know that?
Well, having looked it up, I remembered the Major well. He was a very unsatisfactory tenant, complained about everything.
I'm obliged, Mr. Routledge.
Do you wish to cross-examine Mr. Collier?
I have no questions, my lord.
By her counsel and by her own evidence, she was first presented to us as an old lady who was too frail and too helpless to carry even a half-gallon can of paraffin, but who still made a wonderfully brave attempt to put out the fire. From her own mouth, we now know this to be a tissue of lies. You may find something a little distasteful in the way that the accused, with such apparent reluctance, accused her landlady, Mrs. Liddell, of having stolen or borrowed the paraffin, an accusation which she knew to be totally untrue. And when the truth is at last out, what do we suddenly invite you to believe? We are told that the accused was acting on the instructions of the owner of the property. The owner, a gentleman who had a 6-month furnished tenancy in 1914. Can you believe, members of the jury, that the accused could possibly have thought that Major Scott Godden was really the owner of the house? Can you accept that a remark, one remark, made 60 years ago, obliged her in her mind to burn down Tipskill Manor? If you ever get the chance, burn this awful place down. Can you believe that the accused really took that as a clear order to burn the house down 60 years later, as soon as it was empty? Now, you've seen and heard a person of sharp intelligence, who's understood every word of the questions put to her, who's replied with skillful evasions, ingenious lies, but never with stupidity. Now, members of the jury, Miss Conway has told us of her childhood obsession with fire. It is my submission that with old age, this obsession became so strong, and encouraged by the memory of Major Scott Godden's chance remark, this old lady set fire to the house. Therefore, you have no alternative but to find her guilty.
In firmly and repeatedly saying that she is not guilty of the charge, the accused is right, because she did believe that she was acting with the knowledge and consent of the owner. My learned friend has invited you to disbelieve the accused because of her earlier evidence, because although not guilty of arson, she thought it wiser to tell a believable story. She was wrong. She should have told the truth from the beginning. But that does not make her guilty of the offence for which she is standing trial. The onus is on the prosecution to prove not that the house was burned down, not that the accused started the fire, not that the house belongs to X, Y, or Z, but that the accused knew she was acting without the knowledge and consent of the owner. Now, I suggest that prosecution has fallen far, far short of proving any such thing. The only evidence we have is that she did think he was the owner of the house and that his heirs continue to be. It is true to say she has told conflicting stories. She was wrong. But she is not charged with telling stories, but with arson. You have heard counsel suggest that she did not really believe she was acting with the knowledge and consent of the owner. That, however, is only the suggestion of counsel, unsupported by any vestige of proof. You can, therefore, only in my submission, return a verdict of not guilty.
The issue before you, then, is a simple one. Did the accused believe at the moment that she set a match to that house that the owners would have consented to what she was doing? If she did believe that, no matter how absurd the belief, then she is not guilty. And you must decide on that one point, and that one point only. Now, the accused is not stupid, she's not senile, but she has not shown herself at all times to be a truthful witness. And in deciding whether at last she was telling the truth, you must be guided by your impressions of her as a witness and by whether you think that her story could possibly be true. But I must direct that unless you are satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that she did not believe what she says she believed, namely that the owners would have consented had they known, then your verdict must be one of not guilty. Now, members of the jury, would you please retire to consider your verdict?
All stand. Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict on which you're all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find Millicent Conway guilty or not guilty of arson?
Guilty.
Is that the verdict of you all?
Yes.
Thank you.
After conviction, the judge called for a psychiatric report to help determine if the offence was likely to be repeated and to assist him in giving sentence. On the basis of the report, he put Millicent Conway on probation for 1 year. You can join another jury when our cameras return to bring you a leading case in the Crown Court.